Hello, I'm Mike Silver. I'm the Corporate Vice President of Improvement Sciences here at HealthInsight. Give me just a moment to pull up the presentation. There we go. Today's session is on joy in the workplace, focused on leaders and change agents, and especially in nursing homes. We're going to be referring to a couple of handouts today, one a signature strength self-rating scale, and the other one a resiliency toolkit. We'll get to those in just a moment. So, by way of introduction to this topic, I want to recognize that in talking with nursing home leaders and change agents, that I am interacting with experts in the field of creating joy in the workplace. Nursing homes include some of the most joyful places you will find in the United States. Joyful workplaces that you will find in the United States. Nursing home leaders that I've had the privilege to meet are personal inspirations to me. Through our work here at HealthInsight, we've become students of organizational functioning, and we want to share some of what we've learned in the hopes that you'll find it a useful complement to your skills and experience. We hope that this session also provides you with an opportunity to share your experience with your colleagues so that they may gain insight and inspiration. So, just an observation or assertion. Our individual and collective capacity to solve problems, to adapt and thrive in times of change, to create joyful workplaces, and to create the future we aspire to depends on such factors as optimism and hope, appreciation for our strengths, and our ability to recognize and activate resources. We'll talk about these today. In fact, we'll begin with this signature strength self-rating activity. We're going to ask you to go through this as a group. You have your handout. Find it, the signature strength self-rating scale. On that, you'll find a list of strengths and virtues that are recognized. What I'd like you to do is scan down through those, and we're not going to give you enough time to do a thorough inventory, but don't worry about it. You'll have an opportunity to come back to this if you're inclined to at your leisure, and to share it with others if you are so inclined. But scanning down through that list, take a look at that, and if something catches your eye and say, yes, that sounds like me, that sounds like one of my strengths, put a plus by it. If as you're scanning down through, you say, no, that one doesn't sound very much like me, put a minus by it. Again, don't agonize over this. After you've had a scan, go back and identify and rank your top 5 strengths. 1, the highest strength, 2, the next, that sort of thing. Again, don't agonize. You don't have to get this perfect. I'm going to give you 8 minutes to work on this, and then we'll talk again. So you can pause this video. All right, now that you've had a chance to identify your top strengths, there's a second activity. I'd like you to look at your top 3 strengths and identify how you've applied one of those strengths to make a difference in your personal or professional life. You choose, it doesn't matter. And if you could capture that in a sentence or a couple of words, a sentence fragment, that sort of thing, just fix that in your mind. What is that experience? How have you applied that strength? And then after you've done that, share your strength and your example about how you've used it with a colleague at your table. We'll give you 6 minutes to note your strength, note your experience, and then share it with a colleague. So pause the video. All right, thank you. One of the leading thinkers in this area of joy in the workplace, positive organizations that we've been studying, talks about leaders of positive organizations being able to speak 2 languages, the language of management and the language of possibility. This perspective suggests that organizations need the discipline of sound management, but they also need to temper this or enhance this with positive assumptions about people and about how change happens. That is, leaders can be both task-focused and people-focused. And one of the most important jobs for these leaders is to create a positive organization, a place where, through their contributions and their work, staff thrive. Now, at the beginning of this, at the beginning of this session, we talked about being able to recognize and activate resources. And so when we're thinking about how can we create a more joyful workplace, if we do an inventory of the resources available to us, it would include these things. It would include us. We're a resource. We can bring this to bear. Our staff, residents, family, the community that we operate in, the funding, payment that we have available to us, our colleagues, opportunities like this, our learning networks, HealthInsight, all resources, and science on joy in the workplace and its applications. These are the bounty of resources that we have to draw upon. But it's important not just to be able to name resources, but to understand the nature or the capacities of those resources. Our ability to effectively bring them to bear depends in some large part, upon our assumptions about what those resources have to offer. As we study joy in the workplace, positive organizations, that sort of thing, we see a contrast between conventional assumptions about, for example, the resource of staff, conventional assumptions, and positive assumptions about staff. Under a conventional view, it's understood that staff, or assumed that staff motivation follows instructions, rewards, and punishment. That's how people are motivated. Whereas in a positive organization, we see assumptions that motivation follows purpose, inspiration, and intrinsic rewards. In a conventional model, we see that change is initiated at the top and driven down into the organization. Whereas in a positive organization, we see assumption more closely aligned with this idea that change may emerge and be driven from anywhere. And we see fundamentally different assumptions about the nature of people and what they do. In the conventional management approach, the assumptions are that people pursue self-interest, that they minimize personal cost, they deny feedback and fail to learn, and they underperform. Whereas in the positive organization, we see assumptions that people embrace the common good. They contribute voluntarily and spontaneously. They embrace feedback because they want to learn, and they exceed our expectations. If we're not seeing behavior that is consistent with these positive assumptions, we may need to ask ourselves why. Are there places where these are the operating assumptions and these are the behaviors that we see? Can our organization, can our facility become more like that? How can we contribute to that? An idea that we wanted to share with you, one strategy to consider, is to establish or enhance our staff-directed improvement and process management capabilities as a way of doing business, as a fundamental way of doing business. Now, we understand that that many of you have elements of this, or maybe very well-developed elements of this in place. In fact, that's what we wanted to spend a couple of minutes reviewing together. We're going to pause, and I'd like you to take a minute and share with your colleagues your experience and lessons from activating staff, from your staff engagement efforts. What are you doing? What's working? What have you learned? Why don't we take about 6 minutes, share your experience at your tables. All right, thank you. Another strategy that we wanted to share with you are methods for building resiliency and optimism. The reason we wanted to share this with you is that resiliency predisposes people, predisposes us toward more creative solutions, toward cooperative behavior, and toward compassion. We have included in this is a second handout we have for you. We've included a resiliency toolkit, and I'm just going to walk through it briefly, and you'll think, man, is this all there is? You might, but it really is. The starting place can be captured in these types of descriptions of activities. All of these are evidence-based activities that have been demonstrated to increase happiness and decrease symptoms of depression, for example. So here's at the top of it, we have the gratitude journal. The method is every evening for 3 weeks, you take a couple of minutes to write down 3 good things that happened to you that day and your role in making it happen. These can be big or small things. I repeat this at least once a year. Second activity, signature strengths. You've actually already been through a brief inventory on that. So the process is you complete that self-rating scale, you write a brief note about how you've used that in your work, and then there's an additional activity once a week for a month. Spend a few minutes thinking about how you might use one of your signature strengths even more. We're promoting the use of this activity when trying to initiate an improvement activity or an improvement initiative. Here's another activity that you can do. You can share with your staff, that sort of thing. Building optimism. So you spend a couple minutes. You imagine and write a brief note about your best possible future. Where you're going to be in 5 years. First week, you can begin with your best possible social relationship and how to realize this in the future. Week 2, your best possible physical and health and well-being, how to realize that. Week 3, your best possible contribution to your community and how to realize that in the future. These sorts of activities build optimism. They build resiliency, our ability to cope. A gratitude visit. This is a very powerful one. The process here is you think of someone who has done something amazing for you. This person can be alive or no longer with us, and they contributed to your well-being in a meaningful way. Spend a few minutes just writing a brief note, telling this person what they did, how it impacted you, and the benefits that you received. Be genuine, kind, and appreciative in your note. If this person is still with us, go visit them and read your letter to them. If they're not, share it with someone else that you trust and care about. I do this. I've done this 4 times in the last 2 years. It's a powerful activity. I recommend it. Altruism is another resiliency exercise. These are good for you. These build up your coping mechanisms. So perform 3 kind acts for others in a single day. Record them in a note just for yourself. Repeat twice a year or more often as you like. And another resiliency approach that we could all benefit from is try to find a new way to increase your levels of physical activity. This is very good for you. This is how you prepare yourself for the challenges of making change, making positive change in your workplace. So the reason we offer you this toolkit is we thought that you might find ways to use this toolkit yourself, with your staff, with your residents or advisory councils, and even with families who have their loved ones in your facility. There's a bonus just for HealthInsight change agents. The 3 Good Things journal activity. We're participating in ongoing activities with the Duke Patient Safety Center, and you can register to participate in one of their cohorts who do the 3 Good Things journaling as a group, and they share their results, that sort of thing. You can find out more about this at the website we've noted here, the Duke Patient Safety Center. The next cohort is in November 13th through 27th, 2017. So, what do we talk about today? A critical role for leaders and change agents in nursing homes is fostering joy in the workplace. That's a key role. In order to do this, leaders and change agents can draw upon their strengths and recognize the strengths and activate the resources available to them, especially their staff. We can, to prepare for this or to take ourselves to the next level, to prime ourselves for creativity, contribution, and compassion, we can use that resiliency toolkit, and we can promote its use with our staff and with others. Thank you for your time and attention today. We'd love to hear your feedback on this, something you've heard that you're interested in, something that you might be able to apply, questions or reservations about something you've heard, and we've given you some resources if you're interested in studying more on your own. So thank you.